Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com.
Smartest person in the room syndrome. The worst problem in the world.
Yeah, one of the most frustrating for sure.
How many of us have been in a room and if somebody asks you a question about something and you start talking about it and telling them in 5 minutes about a very complex topic and they're like, okay, I got it. I'm like, what do you mean you got it? And they're like, oh, I'll handle it. I'll tell so-and-so. And I'm like, are you sure there's a lot of factors around this? No, I got it. I'm just like, oh my goodness. And all of a sudden they're the expert and they knew nothing 5 minutes ago. And this is a history. There's laws.
Right.
Those are so challenging to work with. There's typically that ego is so high. They believe they're the smartest. They, dictate what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. They don't ask questions. They'll say, can you do this? Yes. Okay. By tomorrow? No. We can get it done tomorrow. No. And you don't want to say no. You're just like, okay, there's a lot of you have to just constantly explain yourself. And at some point, it's just like, all right, that it's a non-winning argument. It's a non-winning negotiation. I always call it,
it is when they're the boss, for sure.
Well, yeah. Absolutely. But trying to high ego, it can be a deal killer. I mean, it is. I have seen more people leave under high egos, where they just tell them and don't ask that they are the only expert. It's just been problematic. And thank goodness I haven't encountered a lot of them. But when you do encounter them, it's noticeable and it's evident. You immediately go, okay, then there's that person. They're coming to a meeting. You're just like, oh my God, do I need to go? I mean,
yeah.
They're going to know everything. They're going to tell you what to do.
Right.
It's just challenging. I don't know about you, but ego does not lend to creativity. It does not lend to teamwork. It does not lend to collaboration. All of those things die with a high ego boss. And I don't want to call them leader because they are a boss at that point. They are dictating.
Yeah, we're up to number 4 on our 7 dangerous enemies. So it's sandwiched right smack dab in the middle. She probably did that. She probably did that on purpose.
She probably did.
Personal pride that blocks team success and collaboration. And you don't just have to be a voice of authority. That is, you don't just have to be the boss. I mean, we've been saddled with teammates before in our careers that were that person, and just problematic to just move anything forward. I agree with you. They are complete impediments. Since we're talking about leadership, and since this is an enemy of great leadership, then in that context, smartest person in the room, a lack of humility is what we refer to it as in our leadership recipe, with humility being the foundation of the whole thing. So you're not even building your leadership house on any kind of a foundation if you don't have enough humility to ask questions and listen and try to seek some understanding. Lisa and I've had numerous conversations through the years about autocratic behavior. And I probably grew up studying that, and it wasn't a term that you were all that familiar with. And it's not that I'm educated or anything. I worked for it. I worked for men who were very autocratic in my teen years. Quite frankly, I worked for more tyrants than not in my real early years. And I was just curious. I remember having a conversation with a manager who was probably in his 20s, and I was 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
And the wonder was, and I still have the wonder, were they always that way? Were they always the smartest person in the room? Were they always the person that the rest of the world, revolved around?
Mm-hmm.
Or did they become that way when they got some power and authority? Like which came first, chicken or the egg kind of a thing. Countless conversations about that through the years. Haven't made a conclusion yet about it. I do know that people that have whatever that level of pride is, that self-importance where they just can't or won't recognize anybody else. I've always that way. Just the people in my life, it appears always that way. And I could tell from experience with people, not just that way at work, but that way in their personal lives.
Yeah. It's just how they live.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just how they live.
I am the most important person on the planet. Listen to me, pay attention to me, shine the light on me.
Yeah. They're easy to recognize. So from a trait standpoint,
so that's again, a good thing.
Yeah. You're
they don't hide very well.
They don't hide well. They try to take over. They don't ask questions. They want to solve stuff and get the meeting done and over with. They think it's a waste of time. I mean, it's all these traits you can tell quickly.
And on the TV show Survivor, they get voted off the island really quickly.
Yeah, or Deal or No Deal is the new one.
Yeah.
Deal or No Deal Island. There's a new guy they threw in there. Don and I started watching that, and he's creating chaos, and he is high ego. And everybody on the team's like, this guy. He won like Big Brother or something and is a well-known. Anyway, it was so funny because everybody's like, yeah, for 15 minutes, he droned on about how successful he is in life. And he started giving them advice, and he'd only been on the island like 10 minutes.
Right.
So it was greatness. But anyway, there's that.
But when they're the boss, we can't vote them off the island. That's the problem. Yeah.
No, but don't you
have to manage it?
That might be something.
Yeah.
In a new program.
Yeah. We need to put their flame out. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's so funny.
Exactly.
But
so how do you prevent how do you keep your own pride in check? I'm curious. I mean, or how do you think about this? I mean, if as it applies to you, because this is the other thing about all these things is we can look at these and we can say, well, yeah, let's talk about them. Yeah, okay, what about us? Because so far we've talked about lack of vision, hesitation, poor understanding of people, and now ego. But
Randy, I don't know. I'm pretty awesome. I really don't have any comments.
Yeah.
No,
well, I'm not talking about us, just throwing ourselves under the bus, but there is something to the whole self-awareness issue of this and understanding that, our personal pride, and that pride can be, I don't think that pride has got to be as out there as like what we've described necessarily. It can just be problematic with, we already think we have the answer, and we could handle that in a very polite and courteous way, but still be a roadblock. Or we could fail to question what we're doing.
Right.
And could it be better? I mean, I think the personal pride part that blocks team success and collaboration that on this chart is called ego, it doesn't have to be all that rambunctious, out of control. I'm the most important person in the room. It can just be, I'm the boss. I got this. I know better. I mean, it could manifest itself in more of a calm confidence that still could be overconfidence.
Well, I think the danger here becomes when you've had failures, when you've had challenges, and you don't assess and try to understand what occurred and what you could have done. Now, I don't mean this for anybody listening, that every time something happens, you go, what was my part in this? I'm talking about when I was going through challenges many years ago and we were looking at team, we were coming out of COVID. There was just lots of how do we build camaraderie? How do we, there was just the nation was challenged. Those kind of things. It was great. When you talk about ego, you have to be willing to look at yourself and go, okay, now what? And it's almost for a non-ego person, it becomes, how do I adapt? How do I adapt? I'm not a big believer in that you must change everything about yourself to be something for somebody else. I just have always, I'm a big believer in you stay true to yourself. You find an organization where there is fit. You find somebody that has your same values at play. That is what's critical to me. That is what's created success for me. And I think that's important. So ego, like you said, can manifest itself of, I'm going to keep doing this exactly how I've done it. If you've had several hiccups in doing it that way, you might need to relook at it, might need to reassess and figure out, do I need to adapt? Are there things I could have done differently for this team? You get new people hired, personalities change, dynamics have changed. They can totally shift a team environment by the players. And you have to be able to adapt and go, okay, now what do we need? What worked 5 years ago isn't going to work now. It's just not. And I've experienced that. The mental health crisis in this nation, you have to approach things different. It is what it is. You can't say there's not high anxiety, so I'm not going to deal with it. It exists. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with that and how to help those people become successful because it exists and it's real. Do I face it? No. I don't have it myself, but I've had people, friends, and family that are all severely experiencing it and how it impacts their lives. And you have to adapt. So from an ego standpoint, I think that's the difference. I think somebody that's high ego always tries to apply the exact same circumstance to every situation because I kind of call it command and control. They're going to command what they want and they're going to control the situation, period. So there is no dialogue around something of what will work best for most. It's what I believe to be true. Therefore, that's what is going to be true. And we're going to make it true. So it is a difference in personalities and reflections. But of all things, I can absolutely attest that ego kills an organization. Ego will get more people out the door faster. Your A players will not tolerate it for long. And if you start seeing high turnover from a high ego leader, I can almost guarantee you it is related. I'm not going to say 100% because there could be some poor performers that leave too. But there is a direct correlation to a high ego leader, high turnover, and employee dissatisfaction with their employer and in their role. Always.
Yeah, when we talk about being stuck, and I've seen it just play out over and over 100% of the time. An autocratic leader, a tyrannical, my way or the highway kind of a personality and kind of a style. Most everybody freezes. Doesn't matter if you're an A player or a D player, everybody just stays put. Because I'm standing on this square and standing right here on this square, it's not going to work out. I'm going to get ripped about something, but that's a known quantity. And if I step over here to the right, or if I step to the left, or if I step in any other direction to try to move forward, that's going to be worse. And so we just stay the course. I think the path forward is gratitude. I think the path forward is being thankful. I've never known a high ego, and I'm talking out of control, kind of an ego that's problematic to leadership. I have not seen gratitude or thankfulness ever displayed. It's just the opposite. It's just everybody's the problem. If I weren't surrounded by idiots, I could get some stuff done. But all you people are holding my genius back. kind of a thing. Where I
And see,
think
I've seen it.
you and I think you and I work very differently from that for sure. Because I think, well, number one, I think both of us have built our leadership on that foundation of humility, which necessarily means, we're constantly looking in the mirror, not to blame ourselves, but to see, okay, how could I have done something here better? Which isn't being self-critical. I think it's being grateful and it's being thankful for the opportunity, but it's also being responsible. I think it's willing to hold ourselves accountable, to a high standard.
It's interesting because my experience, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on it, because it's a little different to dialogue on what you said. I have had high ego leaders that appear grateful, and what did I say? So they will say thank you. They will say we appreciate the hard work that you've done, but it's because you got it done for what they needed to get done. As soon as there's a failure, they're the first ones to attack. Do you know what I mean? So it's the appearance of gratefulness.
Yeah, but
are they genuinely grateful? It's a facade.
That's just lip service. Yeah.
Yes,
that's lip
correct.
service. Well, anybody
they
can
appear,
give lip service, but
yeah.
But you see it in the way they perform. You see it in the way that they conduct themselves day in, day out.
Sure.
I mean, gratitude and thankfulness, those are just as easily displayed from a genuine place, just like super ego is.
And I think there's a big difference, in listeners. One thing that I had to really learn about, because you can't, until you've experienced a high ego leader, really manager, boss. I don't even, I don't even know if I call him a leader. Until you experience it, you don't know the damage that it can do. I mean, when this talks about dangerous traits,
well, and you may not even know how you'll react to it.
All the ones we've talked about, this is one of the worst. I mean, ego kills. It kills an organization. It kills a team. It kills, as I mentioned, creativity. Everything that's positive, collaboration, teamwork. It is gone and it gets stifled. And we've talked about this before. When your team gets quiet, you got a problem. When you ask a question and nobody responds, and you try to get it out of them.
Yeah, and there's
a problem.
They're going to get definitely quiet with an autocratic leader. Always. Correct. And you don't know how you'll react to it until you experience it.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Until you've experienced it.
Because it feels very different than you looking at the outside thinking, okay, well, now you're part of it, and you're suffering the ire or the potential ire. It kills initiative for sure.
It's destructive.
Yeah,
yes.
It is.
And I've experienced employees suffering from it, right? That come to you for help. I've suffered leaders that are experiencing it. I've suffered peer to peer. So not even over them. It's a peer impacting them. And interestingly enough, like you said, people that experience it in their family. It is just a destructive trait that kills all things good, right? And to experience it is tough. The best thing the advice you and I always try to think about, what do the listeners need if they're going through it? The challenge is you can write it out with the potential it will change, or I always tell people, go find your happy. If it's not where you're at, you do have a decision to make, because you are in control of you. You control your destiny, and you have to figure out, is it bad enough to leave? Or can I ride this out and be sheltered from the storm? Do you have somebody you trust that you can, at least talk about it? It depends on how close you are to the high ego leader as to the impact. The closer you are, the harder it is. You can be sheltered a lot. There are great leaders that are in between you and that high ego leader. They can help a lot navigate that, but it's weathering the storm and how long you can do so.
Yeah, my favorite Jack Welch quote still is, control your own destiny or somebody else will. And I would advise anybody working for an autocrat, anybody working for, just this supercharged egomaniac. Yeah. You can hope against hope. There better be some other, in my opinion, real overriding positive for building your resume, for building your skill set, for whatever. I tell young people, especially young people all the time, people getting out of college, man, pick your boss. Don't just hire a job. Hire a boss. Hire a boss that is really going to be a crackerjack, somebody that you can really learn from. And not that you can't learn from the autocratic leader, but that's one of those deals where, you learn how not to do it. And there can be value in that. There can be value in, especially in younger people, seeing, okay, I see the impact that this has, because what it did for me, I view my trajectory largely due to my early years of working for that. That set the course for my entire career. That set the course for my entire philosophy of leadership and work, not because of how to do it, but because of the damage that I saw in my theory that, I don't think that's the way to go. I think there's a better way to go. The problem I had as a young leader is I didn't know. So I had to just put my theories to the test. Once I got a position where I was the guy, I got in a position to test it. And shut your mouth, it worked. And it kept working, and it kept working. And so it reinforced everything. And so here I am 40 some odd years later, and I still haven't been able to disprove it. You get the last word.
Well, I just want to leave the audience with this. There's a big difference, if you haven't experienced this, between high confidence and ego. A leader that will take you through the storm and protect you and teach you and give you opportunities to navigate that storm, and somebody who's high ego that's going to press you through the storm regardless of the circumstances and regardless of what the troops are saying. That, should we do this? They don't listen. They aren't going to listen. They're going to simply do what they want to do when they want to do it, regardless of input. And even if they do listen, they're still going to do what they want to do. So they'll act like they're listening, but they never change their original path. I just want to make sure our listeners understand high confidence is not equal to high ego. You can have a highly confident, like you said, calm, confident leader. Big difference. High ego, you just don't want to experience it. If you are in control of you, and you've got to figure out what's best for you in that circumstance.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.